Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Paint Party Livestream. I'm so glad to have you join me again in the studio this week for another session of the Livestream. This is episode 115 of the Livestream, so glad to have you. All of you who have joined me for multiple live streams, it's always great to meet you again here in the studio. I'm really excited to have you again this evening. The live stream is really simple. Stay as long as you'd like. This is basically my learn to paint journey. About 3 years ago, I started learning to paint, and so every week, or almost every week, I meet with you here on Monday evenings to progress as an artist, taking you along for the journey. You can participate in the live stream wherever you're watching via the comments. So whatever platform you're on, feel free to ask questions or make comments or suggestions as we go through the evening. I always love to interact with you. It kind of makes it almost like you're right here in the studio with me, and it's a little less isolated as far as the painting goes, because typically I'm just sitting here by myself listening to a podcast or watching a show or something while I paint, but having you with me is always such a joy. So don't hesitate to interact in the live stream with me. The last several weeks, we've been working on paintings that I have started typically in other live streams. For a long time, I was doing a different painting every week, and then paintings started stacking up. In fact, they're all around me, and so I am starting a new kind of stage of my progress, and I needed to clear the studio of all those paintings. So that's what we'll be doing again this evening. We will be continuing to kind of finish up some of those paintings. So if you were here last week, you saw that this painting behind me, it had already been started months and months ago. We did a lot more detail work and really refining the composition. We will continue that again tonight. I am continuing to learn a lot more about composition. In the last couple of weeks, I've learned a lot more things, and so I'm excited to bring that into the discussion on the live stream as well. You may notice that in the corner here, there is a PC or a UPC code. No, is that what they're QR code? Not a UPC code, a QR code. This is for my email list. So I am starting, as I said, a new kind of stage of my journey. I'm excited tonight to kind of let you know, especially those of you that have been here for a long time, that I am going to go ahead and do my very first show next year. So I am very early in the stages of planning and getting all of that together. But my goal is by summer, fall next year to do my first show, which will be probably a solo show, small here in my local community, but I'm excited to get started on that. I started actually in the last couple of weeks, started putting ideas together, and I'm excited to share that with you as we go through the process. But that email list is the way that you can stay engaged. If you really want to stay in tune with that process, I'll share more information, what I'm learning there on my email list. So that's how you can stay involved. Of course, you can follow me on Instagram for progress photos of the paintings I'm painting and kind of more of that process. But I will begin to produce more content for YouTube as well about the process of what does it look like to develop a show, to develop a collection. I've never done a collection of paintings, so I'm going to begin to do that. They will be paintings of mostly landscapes here in the Northern Black Hills, most of them taken or paintings of the Spearfish Canyon, which is just outside of town where I live and is just a kind of a wonderland of potential paintings. So I started this weekend kind of doing some rough value sketches, and once I got into one, the next one came, and it's just ballooning from there. So I'll probably have more ideas than I can actually get done or include in the show. So that is what's coming around the corner. Well, far around the corner next year, but it is quickly, all of it's coming to kind of to a head as far as planning and getting all of the ideas put together, because I need to start painting very quickly and I need to paint very prolifically for the next 8 to 10 months. So that's what's going on. Let's jump in this evening and we will get started. All right, let's see. I will switch my camera over here. Hi, Daniel. So good to have you. Thanks for popping in. It's so great to have you joining as always. I am going to, while I have you all on this camera, going to switch my phone camera around so that I can show the, let's see. Oh, that's a, there we go. Set up the canvas so that you can see the canvas, the panel that I'm painting on or working on, and that way you don't get sick with all the motion until, let's see, I think that's pretty good. I wonder if I do, oh, that's better, I think. And it might even be better. I'm just adjusting all of this because I want to try to get, by raising this up, I think I'm getting a better true color representation on the camera. So I'm just trying to adjust all of this for your benefit as much as possible. So I apologize for the delay here. All right. There we go. That's good. You all can see what I'm painting. All right. Let me go ahead and put my, we'll pull the painting up there. Let me move this to the center so that you can see a little better with the QR code. I do want to leave that up there so people can join, but I'll make it a little smaller. Okay, now let me add my palette camera and we will put up the reference photo that we've been working from. So you'll remember that last week we went in and put in this tree. We put in the tree again. We reestablished the lights and darks, the values, did some work in the background, because really we want the focal point of the viewer's eye to go here first and then kind of go in a circle around the painting. And so everything is driving us. This large light mass, this large dark mass, this large dark mass, all pointing us to this point. This is also where the darkest point of the tree and shadow meets the lightest point of the painting. So our biggest point of contrast with lights and darks happens there as well. This is really starting to read the way I want it to. It's just looking really good. So now I really want to step back and ask myself, what isn't working? What is not working? I do think that I want to, let's see. I'm not sure if I want to adjust this. What I think I want to do is diffuse some of this, mute some of this color out in here. So this is, again, more of the, this is like more in shadow. and the field is more in light, just so it again points us that direction more. Then I think I want to do a little more work here to again kind of push us. If I can put some contrast up here, that pushes us down to this spot where the that kind of light and mist is sitting in that valley there. So that's kind of my thought. I know in the reference photo there's some really kind of bright highlights up in here. And I'm not sure if I really want to do that exactly like it is. I'm just really, really not sure. So we will kind of think through this as we go. The bright highlights are not as intense as they should be. It would add contrast and interest. Yes, exactly. You just said that. Yeah, the thing that I've learned with the bright highlights is that you also have to have, in order for a bright highlight to read correctly, you have to have the contrast around it. So that is something, yeah, that really has to be dialed in correctly in order for it to read correctly. You know what I forgot? I forgot to put on my apron. I'm going to do that real quick so that I don't get paint on my clothing. The highlights would add comfort and warmth. I agree. John, the highlights you're referring to, are you talking about specifically in the sky or what part of the painting or just in general? Are there specific highlight areas that you think would that need to be? Hey there, so glad to have you. Those of you that are joining, I told that are joining later. I told everybody when I started that I have been working. I've been thinking about doing a collection of paintings on from the Black Hills, and I have decided to go ahead with that. And I am planning to do a show next year here locally of those paintings. So you all are in on at the very beginning of the planning of this, and so that's why I have that QR code up in the corner, because I'm gonna, those who want to be more closely connected to that process, I'm going to probably do that via email and YouTube, so you can stay as involved as you would like, to the depth you would like. But I've confirmed a few things and kind of starting to put all of those things together. So that is exciting, and it's coming right around the bend as I begin to prepare. Actually, this weekend I started doing sketches for that. Valley entrance light highlights and some clouds. The top of the hills and trees are darker, and that would add contrast. Okay, yeah. Yeah, let's see. I think first of all, I'm pretty happy with how kind of the highlights on these trees are reading. I do think I want to reestablish again this this green in this line, because it really directs us down. Our eye it really points right to that tree, basically. which is where our lights and darks are. So I think I want to work on that a little bit, and then we'll just see how things progress. The source image uses a lot of contrast to create depth. Yes, it does. Yep. That's what I want, to find that balance. Okay, I'm at the end of that paint. Fortunately, I have another bottle here, sap green. I have a lot more sap green than I'll probably use a long time. But we'll get that ready. Great, great, great. Hope everyone had a great week and a good holiday. For those that were contrast follows the perspective lines. Yes, it does. Absolutely. Exactly. My Labor Day was great. I did some traveling back to Omaha, where I grew up, and got to see my grandmother and some family, so that was really good. I'm fortunate to still have my grandmother living, and I had a good visit with her. So that was really special. Yeah, I was traveling, and so, but every time, this is really, it's funny because this started actually as um, an Instagram live. I started going live on Instagrams years ago, and then transferred to YouTube and all these other channels, and I'm it has become a part of my life. I don't plan things on Monday nights because I make sure that I'm free for often. But yeah, I missed y'all as well. Mine passed a year ago. Oh, that's devastating. Of COVID. Oh, I had a grandmother. My other grandmother, my maternal grandmother, passed in April this year. So I understand that she survived COVID. Was asymptomatic when she got it last at the beginning of the pandemic, fortunately. But she lived to 94, so had a long life. But it's definitely not easy. And my paternal grandmother is still living, but is 95, so she's lived a beautiful long life as well. But it is yeah, losing those we love is difficult, isn't it? Definitely difficult. I'm sorry for your loss. And COVID is such a devastating way to die. I think this is too green. Thank you. I'm pleased with the direction it's going. Yeah. Now I feel like I'm to the stage where it's really just fine-tuning because it is kind of at a place that I'm really pleased with. Okay, I put some more yellow into this so that we'll get that kind of bright. Bright green. That should read as a welcome. So glad to have you. We are just fine-tuning this painting. We're fine-tuning the composition overall, as well as the values and such. So yeah, that is what we're doing. So y'all, I'll probably talk about some of the process of preparing for this collection I'm doing of these paintings, but I will share some of my thoughts. So I've begun this weekend. I had gone out into the canyon and taken a lot of reference photos. I'll probably take a bunch more as I begin to work on this more intentionally. But I did some rough sketches, and what I found is I'm doing some value sketches, which are basically shades of black, white, gray for each painting, because I kind of have a list of areas or specific parts of the canyon that I want to paint, and so I'm working on those and starting with that, just basically going in and doing sketches and seeing what I like, what I don't like, and then determining. I kind of go in literally with a blank page, not really a blank page, but just a square canvas, and then I kind of crop it to what I think fits best for the composition. And I'm starting with, I'm reading Mastering Composition by Ian Roberts, which is kind of a, I don't know, it's just a really, really good book on composition. And so I'm starting with compositional kind of frameworks for what I think, the compositional framework that I think works best for each specific subject. And then from there, I'm building the value sketch, and what I'm hoping that I will be able to do in a couple weeks is put all of the sketches out together and look at them kind of as a group and be able to see, you know, if they're kind of, they all have continuity and they work together as a actual collection. If there are some that I need to set aside and do as a separate, but that's how I'm kind of approaching it. I don't know exactly what the right process is, or if there is a right process. There probably is. Like an academic artist could say, oh, you're doing this all wrong. But that said, that's kind of, and I'm developing very quickly. I'm coming to a process that is working for me. So that was really exciting this weekend. I did, I think, 4 sketches for different paintings. Started to really get excited about the things. Let's see. Sorry, I'm not keeping up with the comments. Well, I'm actually painting in acrylics tonight, Goose Baby. So yeah, it's actually acrylics. It's funny you say that because clouds and flowers are traditionally the bane of my artistic existence. But and I haven't really touched these clouds since I started the painting. So I kind of want to fine tune some of them a little bit, but if you go live on TikTok, you'll have a much larger audience. Yes, I probably would. The thing going live on TikTok is I would have to set up. I currently go live through software that syndicates it across a bunch of channels, and I can't go live on TikTok unless I set up like a separate device or a separate phone to film that, and I don't have that, and it's already complex enough with 3 cameras and all the moving parts. So yeah, I could probably get a larger audience on TikTok, but it's very difficult because I don't have an extra phone or a camera, or at least I haven't figured out how to do that. I could through my iPad, but again, I don't. That'd be hard because the iPad's fairly big. If I had another phone, I could set it maybe off to the side and it would be easier. But it's also easier because my comments come through. It comes through the software, so I can see all the comments like from Twitch and YouTube, all and Facebook and LinkedIn, all in one place. Where TikTok, I would kind of have to look multiple places if I wanted to engage the audience at all, in their comments. So maybe I just need to take the leap. Over there you can set up TikTok shop and sell your work right there. Yeah, that's true. Should really look into it. Yeah, maybe I need to do a little more digging in and see a little more CY, or a little more do that. Let's see. Why not TikTok instead of YouTube? It's mostly just convenience, honestly, because I can do it. Gross sounds like a full-time job. Yeah, it could be, but I do need to rethink that because it may be worth it if obviously the people that are watching there are not necessarily the same that are watching here, or they may not. It's awareness too. They may not even be aware here. So, yep. You are right, sir. All right, let me look. What else do I want to focus on? I'm going to see if emphasizing some of these highlights like they are in the reference photo, if it is too distracting from the center. Yeah, A lot of people look for acrylic artists on TikTok, and there aren't many. Oh, interesting. It's probably also a little bit of bias because when TikTok first went gangbusters, I got on it um, when it was the only game in town, and I realized how just personally how crazy addictive it was, and I couldn't literally I would just waste hours and hours and hours, um, which is obviously totally different than going live is totally different than just vegging out for hours on it. But that's yeah, I should take another look at TikTok. Yeah, that really makes me think though, if especially if people are looking for artists, and if I want to expand, even if people then came over to watch on YouTube from TikTok from an awareness standpoint, it would be really wise to consider. I just really wish there was a way to funnel, because I'd like part of the, for me, the enjoyment really of this is being able to interact with y'all like this. And so if I couldn't engage with the audience on TikTok, if it was, or I wasn't able to paint because I'm so busy looking, trying to look over at the camera to respond to, because here I can glance to the side just a few every so often, and then oh, that's a mess, I just smeared that. um and that allows me to keep up with y'all typically. But I was skeptical of TikTok as well, but I'm changing my mind. I am sure, I know enough that I would probably get a relatively. I actually have a artist acquaintance who has used TikTok to the tune of millions of views, and like he's just really grown his YouTube and TikTok, thousands and thousands of followers. So I know like it's possible, and I know that's where audience is. But again, the type of work I do, he's creating entertainment art basically, or art entertainment about his art. And so he's really doing that, but and he's doing it very successfully. But I don't know if that's my wheelhouse. So I do need to think about it. It's a venue that can really help. Yeah. There are a lot of artists who are willing to help each other. That's really cool. I should dig into it again and look. Okay. We have some further highlights. That's what with acrylic, you have to do multiple layers to get kind of the vibrancy that you would naturally get with oil. So you can do what you are doing now. Yeah, I'll have to think about that for sure. Okay, now I'm trying to think about you don't have to change. Enough with the TikTok talk. No, that's part of the that's part of the fun of this, is getting to just chat about whatever. Another thing that's cool happening locally, I had a friend reach out this weekend and ask if I used oil paints. I said no, and she's like, I want to paint with oil. She's not painted and wants to start painting. And I said, well, I want to eventually, I just haven't taken the plunge. But I said we should start a local art group, because I've heard from other artists that like painting in a collective, or having time to paint with other artists, is really beneficial, like to your development as an artist. And it just sounds like fun. Like if you were in a studio, like if I had a bunch of artists here in the studio, it would be a lot of fun to. Okay, that's not doing what I want it to do. So I think I need. So who knows? Maybe I'll. Because I'd like to do some painting with other artists, and like be easy enough to set up a. The other thing I want to do more is paint from life. It'd be easy to set up some still life, or get a. Get a maybe a model to sit for an evening and paint, or even draw. So I might do something like that. We'll see. Yes, I walked down there to the Opera House today for a meeting, and because because I do a lot of volunteering at the Opera House, and I agree, John. I walked past the makerspace, and I know they have I need to find out more about that, because I don't think it's like the makerspaces I'm familiar with when I was in Little Rock were kind of public spaces, and they had a membership where you could, have access to their, like they had like shops to construct different things, or they had like a kiln, or they had, what is it, for making like screen printing, like t-shirts and things. And so but I'm not really sure how our makerspace works, or if it's actually a makerspace. I think there's somebody in there doing like textiles now, and so I just need to get more information. I just haven't spent the time to. Yeah, I just haven't gone and like kind of found out how to be more engaged. So I just need to do that, because there is some space. Obviously, the bakery takes up quite a bit of space on their side, but there's space to do, like, and I've thought of, like, I'd like to have, honestly, I would love to have on Main Street, to have a studio space where I could paint visible to Main Street, but I don't have the money to get land or the space. I don't have, but it'd be nice to paint in there. But then I have to, like, trekking, at least at this point, I'd have to have a separate setup, and trekking paints and brushes there. It's just so convenient to be, honestly, it's so convenient to be in just walk upstairs, and unfortunately, it's kind of, my laziness kicks in. So yeah. They're very open to new things. If you're hesitant, you have to have some kind of class or group. Yeah, I've heard that from multiple. Like, I have no problem going and chatting with them. I just haven't done it. But yeah, I just need to. And maybe that's a thing, if this friend of mine get a paint group or a drawing group. Actually, that would be the perfect place for like a drawing group, because it could be anybody, painters, or other watercolor, or other, no matter what medium you do, you could come together to draw. And that might be, because it'd be a lot easier for me to take my pencil and my sketchbook, my pencil kit, my sketchbook down there, and sketch, than for few hours in an evening. Maybe I'll see. Maybe I'll approach them and see, because it'd be, especially if the lady who's doing the or the people, I don't know who all is in there doing the textile stuff, if they're not using the space in the evening, or if we can find a space an evening that they're not, that would be really kind of cool. It's a great suggestion. And I've never said this, John, but if you're casual, yeah, that's what they do. If you're ever around town and you see me, like, please introduce yourself, or so I can put face with the name, because that would be cool to kind of make that connection. All right, let me see. So I put some kind of that misty color in here to highlight and I think it does highlight that better, because this stands out now better than it was. That's where we want. But I think I want to diffuse some of this because I intentionally want to, but before I do that, let me see. I wonder if I can take some of this and accent this tree. So I saw a painter friend do this technique where basically he painted leaves in a little bit lighter color, and then it looked like the light was shining through, the leaves were reflecting through. I don't know if I can create that same, maybe not, because this part of the sky is similar, but I wonder if I could create that same feeling or illusion here. That the light is kind of catching the leaves. Don't know until you try it. Yeah, it's nice being in a small town. You just never know where you're going to see people. I don't want to diffuse this too much, which I think I already have. Because this part looks really anemic compared to all these little details, you never know, make a difference, but yeah, I think it is. I mean, I think now I'm going to have to go in and put some more dark branches, but I think it's starting to give the illusion that I'm looking for. That the light is just reflecting off these spaces. Okay, I don't want to go overboard, but I wanted to test that. Yes, let me try that. Hold on to your stomachs and see if I can zoom. I think I can. Slowly. Okay, let me pan over. I don't know if you can see what I did, the little marks there along the top, kind of an orangish color. I'll add some more dark branches, I think, in here because that will give me the contrast that'll make it pop. But then if I put the clouds back in here, it helps recede the clouds back further because they are less saturated, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. Now let me go here and see what I can do actually. Because I do want a kind of a grayish, I think what I want to go in and do, if it's not too light, taking kind of a grayish blue, brown, and put some highlights back in here in the bush. Again, just creating the illusion of some three-dimensional, because this was kind of just all a dark blob, but I want to create some so it feels a little three-dimensional, if that makes sense. That begins to give us a feeling of this is a three-dimensional bush as opposed to just a blob of dark whatever. And maybe some brown. just try to, let me zoom back out a little bit, create a feeling of organic marks. Some as we get in here, because this will be what people see. So this needs to be the most needs to have some detail. But again, I don't want to subtract from what's happening here. But I do want to create some little leaves and things and grass. Feeling that grass is growing down here. Oh. And I go and mess it up. I still haven't figured out how to make really thin, consistent grass strokes, like blades of grass. So that's something I'm still working on. Sounds good. Thanks so much for stopping by, Bobby. Have a good week, and we will see you next week. Whoops. Yeah. Center that again. So you can kind of see a little bit what's happening. We'll put a little grass in there, see how it dries. Now I kind of want to, not sure how this is going to work, so I'm going to use a fairly small brush, but I do want to, maybe, I want to take and create a I'm mixing brown, burnt sienna or raw sienna, and blue to create kind of a dark brown, not sure. Because I want to kind of, I think, diffuse some of this as we so I want kind of a mix between, or where this goes from the dark to kind of a lighter brownish color. but I'm not sure exactly how to do all that. So I'll probably have to paint this over several times. Again, just kind of forcing the eye up to where I want it to go. Doing that, then we begin to really draw in where we want people to focus. I may be totally messing this up, but we shall see. Good thing is we can always paint over it, and brown is not a bad color. To mix in. Okay, I think this kind of splotchy technique works, but then out here, and see what it does then when we bring, then that area of light looks so, it really makes it recede back there, this lighter part of the field. We'll let that sit for a minute just to see how we feel about that. But I think it's doing what I want it to do. What do y'all think? Should probably get up and look at it. That's what Lola would say if she was here. Speaking of, I need to touch base with her and see how she's doing. Okay. Yeah, I really like that. And then I think as I step back, I think that I am going to, different than the same way we've kind of rearranged this from the reference photo, I think I'm going to do up here in the clouds kind of a more darker, make that more darker. So then it also creates kind of a smaller aperture, and we'll have this light moving this direction, the hill moving this direction, and then we kind of have a circle. So all of our compositional components, the kind of window will point to the focus point, the incline of the hill will focus to the point. The other reason we needed this tree here is because we need something visually to stop us from sliding off the canvas. Because originally you'll remember that tree, I took it out because I wanted the focal point here, but I realized compositionally the focal point does need to be here. And that's why I think the reference works so well. So that's kind of, the clouds would make a huge difference even if you don't add highlights. Yes, I agree. I really think like darkening some of these clouds pushes us in, and then doing some highlights along here, refining these highlights in all these places, because just putting this dark, even though it's not cohesive, it doesn't blend super easy, this brown, it makes this pop out even more by putting a little bit of dark. Speaking of, then, I think what I want to do is, let me see if I can do a little bit of, I'm not sure exactly what color I need, but I'm putting blue, green, and brown together, and then a little bit of white, so that we just have a kind of a dark color. I don't want it quite as dark as the shadow on my trees, but I want kind of a darkish color to take in here. So let's see if we can do that and give some additional, kind of set these things back in the and kind of give us some foundation to sit on. Oh, that works, I think. Let me put a little bit more of this in there. We'll do a little bit of lighter as we move then to the, over here into the light. We can still put some in, but it's going to be brighter, obviously, when we go in. But then, because we don't have, I'm kind of rearranging this, but there's like a, it looks like a house and a road down there maybe behind that tree, but that gives us some blending. But we have kind of a something for our eye to really contrast. Let's see. Let me go back, John. Even if you don't add highlights, other places, clouds would make a huge difference. Just to give the top area some emphasis. Right. The highlights on the bottom is very bright. I agree. Yes. If, for example, if this was highlighted, if this was darker, this would stand out more, even if I didn't make this highlight lighter. That's the bottoms of the clouds. Yes. Nice work. Thanks. The mistake I often make still, but is a kind of a newbie mistake, is you look at the highlights and you try to go light, and light, but there's only so much you can lighten it. And before, I would just always add white, but then you get a very diffused color, and it doesn't have that pop. And I realized that the way to make the light pop is actually the contrast against it. And it's crazy how that can change when you take some even things that are the same color on one part of the painting will look really dark based on what it's around, and on another part it may look really light based on what it's around. So it's just a really bizarre phenomena that is like, yeah, you just have to really pay attention, and then just learn to trust yourself and know, like, oh, even though this looks the same, it's not. Or even though it is the same, it will read differently. Um, yeah, so that's a. This is, you know what I just realized? This is a really nice color for the back side of these bushes. Again, I put it down here and it looks fairly light. I put it back here and it looks. It's just such a crazy. Oh, I put too much green in. A little bit of orange, red, and we'll tone that down. I don't know if this is. Might still be too much green. Yeah, this is making me so happy. These bushes look so much more three-dimensional. Okay. Now, I think a lot of this is. Thanks, Bob G. So glad to see you. This is contrast is key. I really enjoy seeing. Thanks, John. Because seriously, like, I was just thinking, I have no idea what I'm doing. A lot of it, I mean, you something happens and you're like, oh, that works, and so then once you know it, you can replicate it or use it again. But sometimes until you try it, and a lot of times until you try it and do it, it's just like, I don't know what exactly I'm doing, and then it works and you're like, oh shoot, how do I replicate that? So I want to use what I'm thinking is, can I use this base of brown to build a like a connection between the dark and the brown because it was too stark. So I'm bringing in this kind of bluish green. There was too much red in this brown. So can I create kind of a mid-tone so that they connect into each other and at the same time create some kind of variations in the ground so that, because I need to find at some point between here, you go from foreground, which are larger brush strokes and larger, more detailed things, and then you go to more horizontal in the distance. Obviously that's what, 3 inches, 2 inches on the canvas, but we have to make it read like it's yards away. And so slowly I need to go from big, like bushy looking things to kind of more grassy looking things to more, I just see the lines in the ground. So that's what's going on in my head. And it's like, okay, how do I actually do that though, is the question. In service of composition, driving the eye right there. But I think we're getting here by darkening artificially what's happening here. It pushes us this way, and then if we do the same there, it'll push us, everything will be pointing us there. That's the part I'm loving. Like, I love as I learn more. I spent the first 3 years basically learning how to mix colors and how to, basically paint what I see, rudimentary drawing skills, drawing meaning on the canvas. And then as I am diving more into how do I push the viewer, the main question now is how do I push the viewer to look where I want them to look without being so overt that it is really, there's no nuance and no subtlety. Then the other question I begin to ask is how do I, after I get them to look where I want them to look, how do I create the experience that I want them to experience when they see the painting? And that is going to be the challenge. But I think this technique is working, like drawing. And this is what I was talking about earlier. Like when I put this color on top of this brown, it looks dark. But if I were to bring it over here into this dark, it suddenly looks like a highlight. So it's the exact same color, but when you put it in different places, it looks totally different and does different things. Now I have to look at this, constantly be looking at it to make sure, because our brain wants to work in patterns. And so even though I'm trying to be very random about how I'm filling this space, it's going to, it starts to look line, 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 line. And so you have to constantly be fighting in landscape painting to create the feeling of like something is organic. So you have to disrupt and look for areas where it's like, whoa, I really created, all the trees are in a row. That's why I didn't want these to all be like the same shapes and the same distance and the same size. But you have to be pretty intentional about that. As you're So as I go up in here, then I want to add a little more of the red tone color and give some different a variety of tones. Then as I come up here, then I want to start doing really smaller, like little clusters of, because I want to move more horizontal as we go back. So I want to do just kind of little dots on the prairie, little dots on the prairie. And as I go out, I'm getting a little bit lighter. I'm putting more of this red color, the raw sienna in. Oops. This little orange so that it is a little more in the sun, but not too distracting for the we'll slowly just draw our way into success. I don't know if that's an actual that's not exactly how it works, but by putting in these little spots of highlight and shadow, we start to create even more three-dimensional feeling. Do you see what I'm doing by bringing the dark this far up into the painting? I'm creating a feeling of more distance. And the eye automatically, this part starts popping out more because we're moving further up the canvas. And now I'm really starting to do the horizontal brush strokes and just dab in these areas that are so that we really get that feeling of now I'm going to really start to lighten this up. So I go in a much more that raw sienna. A little dab of green. Then we'll start to really just start to smooth that out a little bit. Don't want it too red, so we'll put some green in, which is the complementary. That will give us. There we go. We can get in the next 20 minutes, if we can kind of get this ground part where we want it, that would be ideal. I can go back now that I have this highlight color, go back over my, put periodic spots of light where the light is catching the now we can kind of start to bring in, again, the horizontal layout of this. smooth these lines out. Again, it starts to give us the feeling of rose or a cultivated spot. Now I'm going to bring in some of this yellow, which is the yellow ochre, mixing with what we already had, and we should be able to come in and begin to mellow out some of this. And it gives us the feeling of, oh, this is an intentional field that was okay. Now we can probably bring some of this yellow ochre up in here to give us some of that there. So it all kind of blends. Now we want to really bring it up. More and more yellow. By mixing again this with the color we already had, it gives us an opportunity to, and I'm making this up, so I'm just saying what you can already see, but it gives us the opportunity to kind of blend in with what's already there in a way that makes sense. Now, what I think I want to do now is go to like the bright yellow with a little bit of white, just a little bit, so that we get this. That may be too much, but smooth this out. Blend it, and you'll naturally get some of those, that kind of golden feeling. Isn't that pretty? Where we have the, wow, y'all, this is making me so happy. Even without the clouds or anything, it's really going there, isn't it? That's what's hard with acrylics. You just don't have the same capacity. I wonder, now that I'm mixing this, I'm going to try something else. I need to step back because I'm curious if this is, I need to take a look at this at a distance because it looks like it may be sloping downhill. Is that too distracting? Does this look like this hill is sloping this way too far? Because we want it to obviously go up. or not up, but be fairly, we don't want that to be a distraction in the painting. Maybe it's just me overthinking, but is it? Maybe that helps. But I have to remember also perspective. Like it's going, the perspective line is going back. Yeah, I think this works. Okay, I'm not gonna, no, you got it right. Okay, thank you. I'm not gonna touch it much because I don't wanna jinx it. But I do wanna mix this, a little bit of this yellow, maybe a little bit of the orange, and lighten it up a little bit. White, a little more yellow, because I want to go back and see if I can. Actually, I want to see, I did a painting. I want to see how I did that. Yeah, it's just a little bit darker than the sky. So oh my goodness, John. Curved road. I am going to get better, like I did with flowers. I'm going to paint them until last night I was sketching one of the paintings I want to do for the event next year is the path, or part of the path down to Spearfish Falls, where the you walk kind of through the trees and there's benches down there, and the light there is always dappled and through the trees. And I really want to do a dramatic painting of that spot. And yeah, so I was doing that, but there is a path, and I decided to curve the path more and different than it is there for compositional purposes. And fortunately I was doing just a digital sketch, but I was like, what is this? Like, same flashbacks to that road in the mountains. I was like, oh my goodness. Let me zoom in a little bit, as Bobby had asked. I'm gonna move this so you can see kind of what I'm doing there on the tree, hopefully. Yeah, John, I hope it will be one of my best paintings, or it's so far one of the ones that I'm most excited to get started on. Because I just remember the first time I walked down that path and came around the corner and saw the light going through there. I'm actually going to call the painting The Cathedral, because every time I walk down there, that's what it feels like to me. Especially the other last week or 2 weeks ago, I was there kind of after the Cool Deadwood Nights and Sturgis were done, and nobody was down there, and every time I walked through, it's just so breathtaking to me. And of course you have the thunder of the rush of water and the mist from the falls, and it's just a magical place in my opinion. Okay, I don't know what I'm doing. So, putting some sparkle, but now Yes, that's every, and that's why I started when I said if I'm going to tackle doing a series, I want to do something I know and something I'm passionate about, which I love the hills. And I thought first was like going to do all the hills, and then I thought I'm going to stick in the northern hills for now. I mean, I could do Custer in different places, and probably will, but there's so much material right in Spearfish Canyon, and like if I can introduce viewers to what I see when I go through Spearfish Canyon, or more importantly, what I feel when I go through Spearfish Canyon, that's really what I want the experience for this show to be. So that said, got a lot of work to do before now and then. Now I'm gonna, after I added all this highlights to these branches, I'm going back to paint in the dark parts again because I kind of lost the dark parts. So we're going to go real dark and do that. So let's go back in and just add something for these highlights to reflect off of, if that makes sense. And I don't know that you're going to be able to really see anything, but I think it will be a stronger experience. And I want to take my time a little bit and build. Oh, that's really heavy. Build up the foliage around this. Basically one leaf at a time. That works. This is making me more happy. We'll fill this in a little bit. All right. See, now we get really dark contrast, the light mist, and then the dark on this side, and it gives us a real direct point for our eye to find. And then once our eye goes there, it looks back up the hill, and it either goes up to the clouds and around, so it creates kind of this circular, or it goes here over here, and it's still led back into the painting. So that's compositionally what we don't want the eye to go there and then slide off the edge of the canvas. So I'll probably come in with low level clouds that aren't really there, horizontal clouds, and then these will be higher, kind of those puffy, I don't know, do they call them cumulus clouds? And they'll be darker up there so that they're pointing the eye. If the eye comes up here, it's going to hit that and come back toward the center. And that's what's fun, is kind of planning all these little things that are all the artist's choice, that's what's the fun of the All right, I think I've strengthened this a little bit. Let me see if I can. I think I want to put a little more structure in the top part of the tree. Again, just to push the eye down. Basically, this is aligned. So we have this line going this way, this line going this way. Even though this isn't a connected line, your eye sees that as a connected line. So we'll put a little more structure than is in the, well, the reference photo goes more like a drop, but this is good. I think I want to do a little more density up in here. All right, let me zoom out, bring you back to center, see what you think. Big picture. There we are. Now, let me kind of move that so you can see more. All right, I kind of like this. think the last thing really is the clouds. I may be able to get the clouds done this week. If not, we'll do that next week. But I think I'm going to leave this pretty much like it is. I'm not going to do a whole lot of messing around with this because I like where it's going. And then I think I do the clouds, darken some of this contrast, and that will really brighten up some of these other things. I think it will be really cool painting. So I think that's where we're going to stop this evening, just because we're coming to the end of our time and my eyes are fatigued. They were a little tired. I don't know. We've had smoke from the wildfires over in California, and looks like they're over in Montana, Idaho, and everywhere. But I don't know. I didn't have any problem breathing today outside, but usually when we do, I just get really exhausted. So that's kind of what's going on right now. Great work. Thanks so much, John, for stopping by as always. It's cool to have local participation, and especially people I haven't had the pleasure to meet in person, and basically is not my mom. Although I love when my mother joins, and my father. I picked apples, y'all. My parents have okay, let me switch you back to the camera while I get this going. How large is this painting? Bob G, it is probably 14 by 18 or 20. Let me actually see. It is 16 long and 12 by 16 wide. So it's not super big, but it's not super tiny either. 12 by 16. All right, I'll switch back here. Talk to you there while I move the camera around to say good evening. My parents have a apple tree that my grandparents planted in their yard years ago, and my grandma always made like applesauce or different things when there was a good year. And this year we got tons of apples. My dad says it's not as much as we've had before, but or they've had before, but it was quite a few. And I did and so I went over and picked what I could reach on a ladder, some of them, and but I have like probably a bushel, two, maybe 3 bushels of apples downstairs. I just put them in boxes, but I think I'm gonna make some. They're just, the thing is, they're small apples, like almost like crab apple size, but they're green and taste like Granny Smith's, so they're really tart and small. But peeling them, coring them is hard, because by the time you peel and core them, they're tiny. So it's a little bit of a hassle, but I want to make some applesauce and maybe some apple butters, and because I'm like, it's free and they're just falling and the deer are eating them, so might as well. But all right, let me switch back to this view. So I want to say thank you for joining me. As always, it's a pleasure to have you in my studio. I am grateful that you spent these few moments with me this evening. We will be back next Monday at 6 p.m. Mountain Time for another paint party. We'll either finish this painting, or probably, if this one gets done this week, which it may not, because I've been working on the new stuff, sketches, so it'll be either finishing the sky here and calling it good, or I want to work on this one that we started of Amsterdam last year. I think this is a good painting, like the foundation is, but I want to go and do some precision work on it. So that's next on my pile. And then let's see, there's a whole bunch of other ones that you all have seen. Remember this one and this one. that we started, and oh, the tiger. These are more recent. I still have one of Lisbon that I need to finish, that cathedral or that church, I'm not sure. And then I'd started the one in Greece. So just lots of paintings to finish laying around here. So, all right, again, if you would like to be more involved in the development of my, or more, not involved, but more, get more information about the development of my collection and the expo that I want to do next year, please go ahead and subscribe to my email list, and I will keep you informed there, especially as I get into more of these things. I'll share some of the sketches I come up with, my thought process as I'm going through this, what I'm learning. I do want to produce some video content for YouTube on this as well, because I think it'd be helpful to other artists. Typically, the channels I follow are artists that have been doing this 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, and they're good, and it's helpful because they are showing me things I don't know. But I haven't really found anybody that's like, I'm just basically starting out and this is what I'm learning. And so I think that might be interesting and helpful to other artists. So I want to do that. But editing and filming video content takes a lot of time. So we'll just see how much I can do with that. That said, I have planned out the next 6 to 8 months of this process as far as what I need to do each month and each week, really. And so if you are interested at all in that, definitely connect on email. I will probably not send more than maybe once a month, every maybe 2 weeks, but right now not very often until I have things that would be of interest. So that said, I think it's time to say goodnight. Thanks for joining me again, and I will see you next time here on the live stream. Take care. Have a great week, everybody.